everyone, it's Hailey, and today is Bookmas Day 17, so I'm going to be reacting to my 5-star predictions video from last year. Do this video like one of two ways, where I'm like looking at the books, like actually watching the video and looking at the books that I mentioned and then seeing if I read them or not, or like how I felt about them. If you prefer that, then let me know. But the way that I have been doing it, I think this is what I did last year at least, and the way that I'm going to be doing it today is that I looked at the list, I saw what I've read, and I'm gonna be talking about like if I actually ended up liking them. Essentially, at the end of the year, I do a 5-star predictions video, which is like books that I think that when I read them next year, I am going to give them 5 out of 5 stars. Now, it's kind of interesting now because I don't give ratings at all to anything I read. I just feel like that kind of like, it like pins me down, and I don't like that because like not every 5-star book is the same, you know what I mean? I just don't like doing it. I don't need to explain it anymore, but I can kind of give you an idea of like if I were to give it a rating, would it be a 5 stars or whatever? It's essentially, did I end up like loving them or not, you know? Now that I've over explained that though, before we get into the actual video, don't forget to click the subscribe button and then click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post. I'm going to be posting a new video every single day for the entire month of December, so you don't want to miss any of those. Tomorrow for Bookmas Day 18, I'm going to be talking about all of the like TikTok hyped books that I read. So books that TikTok made me feel like I had to read them. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get into this list. I'll link last year's 5-star predictions video down below if you guys wanted to check it out and see like which books I didn't read. I actually hadn't read a ton, and then this past week, which is like the second to last week of November, I was just like, oh my god, I need to read more of these. So I was prioritizing them, and it went pretty well. Like, it did actually go pretty well. So last year I divided it into like 2022 releases and then books that I felt like I was probably gonna read in 2022 and I just felt like I was gonna love them. And I have kind of a mix of that here. I will admit quite a few of these are recent reads, and it wasn't intentional. That just kind of has been how it's been going. So the first book that I thought I was going to give 5 out of 5 stars is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. I had been talking about reading this book for like, it must have been like 2 or 3 years now. It has been so hyped up. I was so excited. Like every time I talked about it, I was like, yes, please, because it is a Romeo and Juliet like retelling, but historical fiction. It's set in the 1920s in Shanghai, and it's about rival gangs. Just sounds so cool. And I finally read it recently, and I am very pleased to say that I did indeed love it. Now, I don't know if it would be 5 out of 5 stars for me. I would say maybe like a 4.75, just because a part of the enjoyment factor with the grossness of the whole thing that's going on in here, that's just like me being picky. I would say yes, this probably like was an accurate 5 out of 5 star prediction because I did really like it. I thought that the writing was so great and the characters were like incredible. I love the fact that it was just these characters that like you didn't know if you could trust her, and like just kind of morally gray there, and the rivalry, it was all just very well done. And yeah, it was just like the gross part was just too well done. I don't want to say what it is because I feel like it might be kind of a spoiler, but yeah, just bleh. That was exactly how I felt, but that means that she did do a really good job. Next is Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. This was a new release this year, and it was one that I was sure I was going to love because I've loved many books that have been like similar to this, where you have magic, like a circus-esque sort of thing. I've read like Caraval, I've read just many books that are kind of similar to this one, but it's something that I love, so it's something that I like turn to time and time again. Now, Hotel Magnifique is specifically that sort of magical, like mysterious, you don't really know what's going on, what's true or anything, but it's a hotel, and it's this traveling hotel where you have sisters and they can't afford to like actually stay at the hotel, so they are trying to get on the staff, and that ends up working out, but they quickly discover that like not everything is as it seems, and there's something a lot darker and more sinister going on. I think maybe this book lacked the whimsy I was hoping that it was going to have for me. It wasn't an accurate 5 out of 5 star prediction. I think it was just kind of okay. And maybe it's because I have, like I said, I've read many books that are kind of like this, so my expectations are a little bit higher, but I just felt like I wasn't getting as much of the magic as I would have liked to. I think this one was kind of forgettable for me, which was really unfortunate because like I did enjoy parts of it. I enjoyed that sister relationship and the tension there and how much the main character, like I love reading about sisters and how much the main character was trying to take care of her sister, and it just, something about it just didn't quite hit the mark. So it let me down a little bit. I don't think I would rate this one, like, I think if I were going to give it a rating, it would be like a 3.5, which is by no means bad. It's just kind of like middle of the road, you know? Next is Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellefleur. I didn't know much about this book when I decided it was going to be a 5 out of 5 star prediction for me, because that kind of makes me laugh. All I knew was that it was a sapphic romance and it was super hyped up. Like, it was everywhere. Everyone was saying that they loved it, and it took me a really long time to read it because I only read it recently, but I did actually really enjoy this one. I think 5 out of 5 stars might be a little bit high, but I did really like it. This is kind of an opposites attract romance, which I really love. Like, you have one character who is really into astrology and like sees more of the bright side of things. It's kind of like a grumpy sunshine sort of thing. And I felt like that aspect of it was super cute. I felt the chemistry between the two characters, and they started out with like this fake dating thing. And I felt like the premise for that too. Sometimes I don't like fake dating when, I mean, it's one of my favorite tropes, but sometimes it can be the foundation of it doesn't feel concrete enough or believable enough to me. Like, that was my problem with the love hypothesis. But here I understood. Like, she's trying to get her brother off of her back because her brother keeps on trying to set her up with everyone. So she just says that she's dating like the last person that she went on a date on, which just so happens to be the main character, who also like works with her brother. So I saw the connection there. I felt like it was a really good foundation for things, and I did enjoy watching their relationship blossom. I enjoyed the fact that you got to see both sides of the story. It was a really solid romance. My next 5 out of 5 star prediction was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Pretty much when Emily Henry is coming out with a book, you can guarantee that it's gonna show up on this list, because I love Emily Henry. At this point, I have not been disappointed, so obviously that was the same case with this one. This is the latest book by Emily Henry, and she writes kind of like, they're sort of literary focused. I don't know what her next book is about. I think it's called The Happy Place, but they always feature characters that kind of have something to do with like the literary industry. So here you're following a literary agent and an editor, and they have like this sort of enemies to lovers romance. It's just, her writing is like no other. I am obsessed with it. I wasn't expecting this one to be a small town romance. Like I said, at this point, I don't know what her next book is about. I just know that I'm going to read it. So I never really look to see what her books are going to be about, because I know I'm just gonna pick them up. So this one, I just went into, and I knew it was gonna be a 5 out of 5 stars. And it really was. Like, I loved this one. I love Emily Henry, and all of her characters are super unique but relatable. They're like flawed, and they're people that I can see myself in. This one had a really nice, like I said, that small town element, but also the sister was really involved in the story, and that was nice having that relationship there. It was just great. Next is The Enigma Game by Elizabeth Wine. So I've been saying Ween because someone told me it was that, but then the audiobook said Wine, so I'm gonna pivot back, but I'm trying my best here. But I have read many of Elizabeth Wine's books by now. I'm gonna have to like train my brain to go back on that one, because I think that's how I was originally saying it, but then someone told me, yeah. Anyways, I've read all of them up to this point, and The Enigma Game came out a couple of years ago, and I've been like looking forward to reading it ever since. And I think it was a couple years, maybe it was just, no, I think it was 2020 that it came out. Anyways, she writes historical fictions that are focused on pilots specifically, which is really interesting. And a lot of times it's female pilots, and that was what this one was. You got all sorts of different pilots in the story. It wasn't just female pilots, but female pilots are like pretty prevalent to the story. Wow, that was a tongue twister. This one wasn't quite a 5 out of 5 stars for me, but it was really interesting. I did like it a lot. It's about this like Enigma machine that is left by a British soldier. So he's like risking his life to drop this off to the British intelligence, and this group of people in like this smaller, I don't know what it's called, but like subsection of the army where they're staying, it's about them. It's like all of their stories, their connections and everything. And it's definitely like one that is going to tug on your heartstrings. It's not an easy read. I mean, given the time period, you're following characters who have like lost a lot and they're still in a situation where they are like vulnerable and probably going to lose a lot more. And there's a lot of high stakes situations, and it was really, really hard to read, but it was super well done. Like, Elizabeth Wine does a fantastic job with all of her books. Codename Verity and Rose Under Fire are definitely my favorites. This one was a really good one though. I would say if I were going to land on a rating, it would be like a 4 out of 5 stars. Next is Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. So Elizabeth Lim has written quite a few twisted tales. I haven't read any of hers yet though, but she also is the author of Spin the Dawn, which I really liked. And there's actually a sequel to that one, but I had kind of heard mixed things, so I didn't end up picking that one up. Let me know if I should. This one was her latest release, and I was really looking forward to it, obviously, and I was sure I was going to love it because when I did my little like your best books of the year survey last year, a lot of you guys said that this was like your favorite like new release that you read in 2021. So I was like, cool, like I'm probably gonna love it. I didn't love this one, and I don't know why. This is another one I have a hard time pinpointing where it didn't connect, like where it went wrong for me, because I don't think it's a bad book. I think maybe it was just slower than I wanted it to be. I don't know. There was just kind of something that was missing from the story, and it's another one that I feel like it hasn't stuck in my mind. It was kind of like, I don't want to say it's forgettable because I think the premise for it was really great, but I don't want to be just judging it off of the premise. I think it was just my personal enjoyment. This one would fall, once again, more at like a 3 out of 5 stars than a 5 out of 5 stars, which makes me really sad. I wish I had enjoyed it more, but it was just kind of okay for my personal enjoyment. Next is Heiress Apparently by Diana Ma. This I thought I was going to love because I had read Tokyo Ever After and loved it so much, which is kind of a similar thing where it's like Princess Diaries, but with a Japanese main character. In this case, it's a Chinese main character, but it wasn't like princessy. It didn't really have, I was expecting more royalty, and it was just kind of like rich people, which didn't appeal to me as much as royalty, which I know like royals are essentially just rich people, but it just didn't have those royals vibes, you know, that I was hoping for. It's essentially like the main character, she has never been to China because her parents like said never go back, blah, blah, blah. She ends up secretly going there because she's starring in a movie, and that movie is being filmed in Beijing, and she goes there to film it, and there she discovers that she actually looks identical to this like very famous social media star Chinese woman who she also is related to. So that's how like the heiress thing comes in. But I just wanted it to be different than what it was. Like, I did like this one, but it wasn't what I was expecting, which is kind of, I think if I hadn't been expecting what I was expecting, I would have liked it more, if that makes any sense. I thought it was a really like interesting look at how Chinese people and Asian people are treated in the media and like by Hollywood and everything, and you have a character who's fighting against that but also trying to like make herself known, but then she kind of is getting wrapped up in this family drama. Basically, all I'm gonna say, at the end when they're revealing all the secrets and everything, I was like, that's the story that I kind of wanted to read. I would love to read that story. So this was, it was good, okay? Like, once again, I think 4 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.75. It was a solid read. Next is I Must Betray You by Rita Sepetys. Rita Sepetys is an author that I have loved. Like, I have read all of her books except for one, which I definitely need to read soon, but I've read all of her most recent releases, and this one came out last year or came out in 2022. I think it came out this past year. And this was set during the revolution in Romania, during communist rule. And it was so fascinating and eye-opening and just like, once again, hard to read. Historical fictions generally can be really hard to read. And seeing a character where like he essentially ends up being blackmailed to like sell out his family, but they're living somewhere where like everyone is kind of in that situation, so you don't know who you can trust. And it's so difficult, and watching his life unfold in such like terrible and terrifying situations. Ruta Sepetys just does such a great job of transporting you to the historical period and place that she is writing about. It truly just like takes you there, and you are with these characters, and there's like nothing more terrifying than that. Like that is just so scary. And yeah, this one definitely was chilling. I would say maybe it's more of like a 4 to a 4.5 out of 5 stars for me than a 5. I have enjoyed like the other books that I've read by her more, but it was really, really good. It's close to a 5. And the final prediction that I did actually end up reading is Angel of Greenwood by Randy Pink. This one I would say it's probably similar, where it's like maybe a 4.5, but I think this one is really close to a 5. It's once again a historical fiction. I seem to like think that I'm gonna love historical fictions generally, because I do. They're the ones that like leave me feeling the most impacted. But this is set during the massacre of Greenwood, and that happened in the 1920s. If you don't know about it, which I only found out about it like a couple years ago, because I mean, we never learned about it in like my American history classes, but it was just this absolute massacre on the people of Greenwood, who were thriving when like white people didn't want them to. And you're seeing young kids at the center of this. And what I liked the most about what this book did was it really brought you into that community. You saw the community at peace. You saw the community just trying to thrive, and it like was a really intellectual story. It brought in the teachings of like W.E.B. Du Bois, and I can't think of who else it was. But you just see these people who are living their lives. You get to know everyone in the community and how the community operates, and then you see how they are just completely decimated for absolutely no reason. Like, this was a really heartbreaking and honest read. It was so hard to read this one, but I think that the author did a great job of bringing this to like a YA level, and it was just a very fascinating but super difficult read. Okay, so those are all of the 5-star predictions that I had from 2021 that I have read. So I think I did pretty well. Like, I would say that I really liked most of these. There definitely were a few that I didn't end up enjoying as much as I had hoped, but nothing that I like hated, so at least that's good. But yeah, that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget that tomorrow for Bookmas Day 18, I'm going to be talking about the books that TikTok made me read this year, so that should be fun, and I will see you guys then. Bye!